This talk will be juicing your way to a radiant life. And now, I'd like to welcome our speaker today, Linda Kordich. Has been teaching juicing for over 4 decades. Linda and her late husband, Jay, the juice man Kordich, launched the juicing craze in America in the late 80s with their television show, which ran until 2001. Linda still continues her life mission to teach juice therapy to the world. She now resides in the Chicagoland area with her husband, me. And though I am partially biased, I am so excited about the new talk she will be giving today. My wife and I have both dedicated our lives to teaching juice therapy, but today my sweetheart will be connecting with all of us in a more profound manner. Typically, when we teach together, I am the analytical, mind and fact-based orator, citing studies and research and laying on the scientific jargon rather thick. But this is an outdated approach that is becoming obsolete. This brilliant teacher, my wife, will be speaking to you from the heart because that's where she wants to reach this audience. We are all phasing out of a mind and matter style of learning, and the shift to a more heart-based modality of teaching is what the collective consciousness is connecting to more and more each day. So please, open your hearts and join me in welcoming Linda Kordich.
Hello there, everyone. Thank you for coming. I'm so grateful that you're here. Today, I'm going to be talking about how to nourish, heal, and glow from within. I've had a vast experience in my life about juicing. I grew up as a child with a very sick mother who I would say had colitis, diverticulitis, cramping, bloating, diarrhea, constipation, in between. And I was like maybe 8 or 9 years old when I witnessed this, and I know she was miserable. And guess what else was happening in her life? She was miserable in life too, in her marriage, in her life. And I started to witness that as a child. And then as I aged and got more involved in juicing as a teenager, I was really curious about juicers. I don't know why. Maybe because it was, sort of like a peek into my future. But I saw that juicing was really helping her, but it didn't take her to the place that she really needed to be, which was what we're going to talk about today, which is healing from within. It goes from the body. The body only responds to what we think. So where do we really begin our detoxification? It begins in our mind. Our thoughts, our behaviors, our reactions, our triggers, our wins in life, our losses in life. These are like neurotransmitters that we need to regrow. And as those regrow through love, devotion, gratitude, appreciation, forgiveness of ourselves and others, that changes the neural pathways. So we can start to really heal from within the brain, the way we think, the way that we react. So that's what I'm going to be talking about today, okay? So let's get to the second one. And we're going to see a little clip of my late husband, Jay Kordich, who's literally changed the fabric of this country back in the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s. And then when I met him in 81, it took 10 years for us to come up with this concept called the infomercial, pardon. It was really supposed to be an informational commercial, but it sort of now is morphed into something different. But back then, we were able to reach millions of people about the healing power of juicing. And this is a man that had stage 4 cancer in his bladder, and within 3 months, the tumor had completely disappeared, and his life went from a trajectory of being a meat eater and a football star for the Green Bay Packers to being in love with teaching people about juicing. So let's watch this little video, and then we'll continue. Here we go.
This is a great drink because it gives you energy and stamina and endurance. It'll keep you from tiring prematurely. And all it is, it consists of carrot, parsley, celery, and apple. And boy, I drink this drink every single day of my life. And you seemingly never tire. There's the parsley, carrots going in. And when you do things like parsley, that's the 3rd most powerful food on this entire planet. We're talking about high density of nutrients per calorie. Celery has potassium and sodium, magnesium. Apple has the pectin, And here it is. Carrot, celery, parsley, and apple. One of the great drinks of all time for stamina and endurance. See, here's the powers of life. Plants are the factories of life, and only the juice of the fiber actually penetrates through the intestinal wall to get in the bloodstream to feed your 100 trillion cells. This is a drink for vitality, to structure the cells, each individual cell. This is a drink where you have antioxidants, the life force, the endurance force. It lies right in these juices, and it's very simple, and the body doesn't spend 1 ounce of energy. Everything is pre-digested as soon as you drink this into your bloodstream. Bingo. Now.
Isn't that amazing? Oh my God, I love that man. Okay. So I don't know if you're older, if you remember him or not, but we were on the air from 1989 until 2001, and we sold millions and millions of juicers. We went from living in our van in 1981 with nothing. I was suffering a lot when I married him. I've been through a lot of trauma in my life. My parents disowned me when I married him because he was so much older than I was. But he had been a vagabond his whole life, and I just dropped my real estate career and just jumped in. And we lived out of our van for several years until I got pregnant. We had 2 boys. And within a 9-year period, we found this infomercial concept. And Jay had already been teaching juicing for 40 years. And that was his passion. So how did he get to this point in his life? So when we're sick and we're suffering, that suffering can sometimes really change the way we think. And that's what I meant about these neurotransmitters in our mind. We need to learn to serve others, serving the ones we love, forgiving them, loving them. Being supportive and loving to ourselves is so important. This is what changes our brain. And when we learn and we start to detoxify our brain, we start to resonate ourselves to these beautiful, pure, living foods that are magnetized to our body because they've been infused by the power of the sun. And this is what I'm going to talk about today. So let's get to the next. There we go. Okay. Detox. Begin the journey towards detoxing the body. Why are we sick? Just detoxing from within and our mind-body connection. So why are we sick? We're sick because, first of all, we have so many things in this world that we are appreciative of. Oh my gosh, the internet is full of information, but it's also keeping us from being outdoors. And outdoors is the way that we connect to the sun. Now, why is the sun so important to human nature and to our human body? Because we are like a battery to this sun. Yet we've been taught for decades and decades and decades that we should not be in the sun. This is so ridiculous. Now, I remember back in 1980 when my doctor told me, if you're a vegetarian, you're going to die of anemia. Okay, that's not true. But these doctors are only teaching us what they know. They had known back in those days very little about nutrition, about the life force. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the life force. One of the things that Jay and I really taught for many, many, many decades is that the life force is what we are missing on our planet in our bodies. And where do we get that life force from? It's not from cooked foods. It's not from heavily meat and all dairy and all this stuff. It really is from plant life. And more wonderful research is coming out, like yesterday when we heard so many great speakers talking about, oh my gosh, the alpha linoleic acid and flax, and oh my God, the chlorophyll in greens. They're all talking about these fantastic things that are keeping our bodies well. The life force is what we really are missing. So how do we get life force into our body? Juicing. Why is juicing so important? Because let me give you an example. I want to ask you a question. If you drink coffee and those coffee grounds are sitting in the coffee machine and all that liquid is coming into your cup, are you saying to yourself, oh, I need to put the coffee grounds into my cup because I need the fiber? I mean, after all, it's a bean, right? But that's because we've been programmed to believe that we need the fiber in smoothies. So the life force, the best way we can get life force into our body, the most effective and profound way is to drink pulp-free juices. And my sweet little husband, who's not here right now, would say, oh, yes, it's so true. And there's so much conflict about this, but I'm here to tell you right now, after teaching for close to 50 years, We need pulp-free juices into our body. Why? Because they go into our bloodstream. When we drink coffee, do we have to wait an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours to feel it? No, we feel it immediately. Why is that? There is no fiber in coffee, and it gets into our bloodstream immediately, just the way Jay talked about it. When these juices that are pulp-free get into our bloodstream, they feed the body. The number one organ in our body for longevity and for health is our liver. And guess what happens? Juices go into the bloodstream, hits the liver goes, oh, thank you. Oh my God, I love these nutrients. Now I can start to feed the other organs, but more importantly, feed the bloodstream. The bloodstream is what feeds our organs and our tissues and our glands. This is so important because if our bloodstream is thick, our bloodstream is full of bacteria and particles that we don't really need, our organs aren't going to be healthy. So how do we get the blood clean? Oh my gosh, chlorophyll. Chlorophyll comes from what? Sunshine, right? So plants like parsley, kale, cilantro, spinach, these dark leafy greens are profoundly important to our human blood. But we can't really eat it, right? I mean, it's really hard to eat a lot. But you can take 2 cups of parsley, run it through your juicer with 10 or 12 carrots, maybe a little bit of ginger or whatever, celery, cucumber, whatever you want. And I'll talk about that in a minute. Go through that beautiful, beautiful glass, what Jay used to call the rainbow glass. You could even put beet in there. And this wonderful juice combination, the key is 32 ounces. You really want to start getting better. You really want to change your lifestyle and get detoxified from the foods, the bad foods that we're eating. You start juicing every day, 32 ounces, something like that. And at 2 o'clock, I'm giving a lecture on juicing, strictly juicing, and I'll be actually making smoothies too. And nut milks. But these are the kind of juices that you really want to be putting in your bloodstream. I can't tell you. Okay, let me give you an example. When Carl and I first came to the center, the Science of Spirituality Center a couple of years ago, we were working in the kitchen. We wanted to do selfless service. This is really important to us. We know the value of it. We wanted to help share our knowledge of juicing and living foods with all of our beautiful brothers and sisters. And nobody wanted to taste the juice. No, 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 no. You want to have coffee. You want to have the chai. But one person said, oh, I want to try that juice. And 10 minutes later, he comes up to us and he says, can I have some more of that? And I go, yeah, well, what was it? Oh, I feel alive. I feel energized. And we go, okay, cool. Within a 6-month period, guess what happened? They're like, oh, where's the juice? Do you have the juice? Can you give me some juice? So now it's like, well, we're making gallons of juice every weekend. It's really fun. So I just want to let you know, 32 ounces is the key. We can talk more about that later. But the life force, do you understand? There's a magical pyramid. At the top of it is a human being. The bottom of it is the life force, which is plant life, the sun, and next to that is love. Those 3 things, when you have that, you have longevity. We're not going to live forever, but like my late husband lived his entire life disease-free. After he had cancer when he was 26, but after that, disease-free. How does that happen? By bringing these life force foods in. Now, what do I mean? How do I create like a vision for you? For example, fruit is the most powerful cleansing food on the planet. But oh my gosh, it's got so much sugar, right? That is so not true. It's the most important thing we can put in our body. If we look at chimpanzees, gorillas, all the animals that are closest to humans, what are they eating? They're eating plant life and they're eating fruit. We are designed to eat fruit. Fruit digests itself. Now, that's something you can eat that you don't ever have to worry about burdening the pancreas. You don't have to worry about burdening the stomach. We just start eating 2 or 3 pounds of fruit a day. That's what he did. And we also eat big salads. We should make our meal like a bowl. And on the 23rd of August, I'm teaching a class about how to make beautiful vegan bowls. 50% living food, 50% cooked food. Why is that? Anything that's more than 50% of your meal that's alive is going to digest that cooked food. It's almost as if the body's saying, thank you for giving us this living food, this sun-baked, this life force food. Now we don't have to burden the pancreas and the digestive juices in the stomach. We can go ahead and digest this without problem. And if you've ever eaten Chinese food, you know that's kind of true. When you eat, without a lot of the bad Chinese food, if you eat vegetables and rice, within an hour and a half, you're feeling light again. Why is that? Because there's so many vegetables in that meal. Okay, so let's get to the next one. Detoxing from within, our mind, friend, or foe. We talked about that just a minute ago. Now, always talk about detoxifying the bloodstream, detoxifying our bodies, but trust me, it starts in the mind. So how do we change those neural pathways in our mind? As we said earlier, selfless service, loving our partner, loving our children, forgiving people that have hurt us. Okay, let me ask you a question. Have you ever been in a conflict with someone? Like a big conflict, and it's really bothered you. It makes your heart pound, and you just can't wait to get back at them. What do you do when you're really upset? We go to the kitchen. We eat some cake. We do some, some coffee or some pie or whatever, or we do things that are really unhealthy for us, which is to project our anger on other people. So that's why it's really important that we think about the most important thing in life, and that's love, forgiveness, tenderness. Okay, so our mind-body connection, toxicity of thought, behavior, and action. We already talked about that. Let's go to the next one. So what triggers us to eat poorly? We all know, I bet you everybody in this room knows what to eat. Like, oh, well, we know we're supposed to eat, salads, and we know we're supposed to eat healthy foods. Plant life is important. Doctors are more and more saying plant life, plant life, plant life. This is where all the healing power is, right? So why is it that we're not doing it? Why do we keep falling into these habits? Well, the only way to do it, juicing is the number one way to change those habits. It's like a bridge that takes us from one plane of thought to another. And why is that? Because juicing will not just bring you the life force into your bloodstream, it's going to help change your thought patterns. Guess what? Plants have consciousness as well. There is a very powerful etheric energy that lies in the juices of these plant foods, particularly dark leafy greens, carrots, beets, celery, cucumber, oh my gosh, so many more, but particularly those 5 and the dark leafy vegetables. That is what's going to take us from one place to another. And I'm telling you how I know that. I've been counseling and consulting people for 30 years. And the first thing they say to me after the 4th day is, oh my God, I'm feeling better. I'm not on the coffee. I had a little headache for a couple of days, but now I'm feeling better. And you know what? I'm not craving like carbs so much. I'm really craving a salad. Those juices are working. I kid you not. Now, for those lucky few of you that got my book, Life Foods, Life Bodies, this beautiful, beautiful book that I wrote a while back, I have about maybe 10 or 12 more. And at the end of my lecture, if you come to the booth, I'll give those to whoever shows up first and sign it for you. So we want to become mindful of our thoughts. If you get really upset with someone or you're upset with yourself, I guarantee you, if you take a walk, or if you go into prayer and you ask God to please change your mind, it may be difficult in the first 4 or 5 or 6 times or 20 times, but I guarantee you, the more you say to yourself, I need to be mindful, I need to take responsibility for what's happening, I don't want to put poisons in my bloodstream. This is what happens when we're stressed out and we get angry. It's so important to forgive. It's so important. So what we want to do is become mindful, and you keep saying to ourselves, okay, I'm going to go take a walk. I'm going to make some juice. I'm going to eat some fruit. I'm going to detoxify my mind from this relationship, right? This really, really does help. These are the foods that are delicious. Okay, let's face it. Pastries taste great. Oh my God, coffee, donuts, croissants. You go to Paris, France, oh my Lord. The fast foods, even the veggie burgers, they can be a little heavy. Chips, crackers. Have you ever noticed in grocery stores that like a third of the grocery store is like chips? I mean, it's amazing. 25 years ago, it was like half of an aisle. And now why? Because they're cheap to make and they're addictive. These foods are addictive. And these addictive experiences that we feel are not helping us age. I don't want to see us, and I just turned 70. I do not want anyone to believe that when they're 55 or 60, okay, here comes the medications. Oh, I've got this problem, that problem, this problem. It's okay if you have to have them. But I promise you that when you eat a very beautiful lifestyle, eat a lifestyle and think a beautiful lifestyle, your life is going to change forever. Okay? I promise you that. But it takes discipline, and it takes courage, and it takes practice. So these foods are going to take you into an early grave. And you know what? Even if it's not an early grave, it's going to make you sick. Constipation, you're going to feel tired. It's not something we want to do. We want to detoxify yourself from that. Okay. So now I want to show you something that's very special, very special. You see this photograph right here? On the far right, you see cooked tomato and raw tomato. This is Kirlian photography taken taking these pictures to show you that these foods are not just empowered by the sun, they're electric. And what are we? We are like batteries to the sun. Our body is more than 70% water and liquid. The rest of it is bones and some organs. We need to connect to this life force. This is a perfect example of what life force is. We want to identify on every level, emotionally, physically, mentally, to bring these foods into our body. They will feed us. These electric foods will connect to our electric body. It's just profound. So we want to nourish ourselves. We want to calm our mind. We want to choose life. We want to choose love. Fresh juices, fruits, greens. Now, I'm going to get into something very important. 75% living, 25% cooked. Remember when I said at least 50% of your meal should be living? Well, let me give you an example of that. 75 is the best, but now that, for those of us that live in Illinois, we have really cold winters. So that's when we start to go down to 50%. But I'll give you an example. If you take a salad and you make your base of your salad, let's say some romaine lettuce, some spinach, some shredded zucchini, some shredded yellow squash, some red bell peppers, yellow bell peppers. You could put in garbanzo beans. You could put in some brown rice if you have to have it and you really want it. Quinoa, red quinoa is one of my favorite foods to put in a salad. You could put tofu in there. All these wonderful bean-based and protein-based proteins put on top of your salad. And then you can make like a tahini dressing. You could also steam some broccoli and put it in there. This is how we want to start thinking about what a meal really looks like. This is what makes people live in their 80s and 90s. Now, I'll give you an example. My mother and father are 92. They live in San Diego. I've spent most of my life in San Diego. They have their own garden. They live in a 4,500 square foot home. They have an acre of land. My dad gardens. My mother's an artist. They have absolutely no medications. They haven't had a heart attack. They don't have diabetes. They've been juicing, guess what, for 50 years. So based on my experience, I want to share with each and every one of you. I have been through the gamut of what works in life, what's a trend, what's a fad, and as I said, what works. What works is juicing, plant life, fruits, love. Love is so important. The heal inside and out, fruit, a wonderful beginning. So let's talk about fruit. What kind of fruit is your favorite? Apples, oranges, tangerines, grapefruits, kiwi, yeah. Avocado is a fruit. Tomatoes are also a fruit. Oh my gosh, there's melons, there's cantaloupes, there's watermelons, especially right now we want to be eating those. So there's a vast majority of fruits, but we're not really eating them. And maybe we'll have, an apple every 2 or 3 days or a peach every other day, but we're talking about like 2 or 3 pounds of fruit a day. Make yourself a big fruit salad in the morning. It's the best way to detoxify our bloodstream and to also bring those high ether foods. And when I talk about ether foods, I'm talking about foods that bring in very high vibrational energy. And what does that do? They affect the way we think. If we're eating bacon and eggs in the morning, guess what we're going to be thinking? I need to take a nap. Why? Because the blood's leaving the brain and going into the stomach. All right. So the sun. Let's bring that sunshine from the outside into our hearts and let that sun shine from the inside out. You would be amazed how life changes. Like I'm going to share something with you that's really, really personal and really profound in just a few minutes. Okay, foods that heal. I'm going to talk real quick about Dr. Lee. Does anybody know who Dr. William Lee is? It's L-I? Yes. Okay. Dr. Lee, I want you to look him up. Sign up, enjoy it. He's wonderful. What does he say? He's an oncologist. He's a very famous #1 New York Times bestselling oncologist for 30 years. His mother at 88 had stomach cancer. What did they do? He put her on immunotherapy. She got a little better. But he also found out that there were 4 fruits that literally changed her life. Pomegranates, kiwis, cherries, and dark grapes. Those 4 fruits. Oh, but they're so high in sugar. Oh my gosh, they're so high in sugar. No, they're not. What did they do? They healed her. 11 years later, she's 92, completely cancer-free. God, how did that happen? Because he talks about it. the mucus or the gel that comes out of these fruits suffocates the cancer cells. They can't live. Cancer cells die. And of course, she also did emotional work, but this is a wonderful man. I really believe in him. So here we go. Kiwi, pear, apple, pomegranates, peaches, cranberries. Oh my Lord, cranberries. This winter when we have cranberries, please buy frozen cranberries, blend them, eat them. You can actually juice frozen cranberries. I talk about later. Grapes, melons, citrus, pineapple. Now, if you're diabetic, forget what I said, okay? But even if you're just a little blood sugar high, fruits, believe it or not, this research is coming out. Fruits actually help balance our blood sugar. Now, I have been juicing and eating fruit for over 50 years, and I just had my blood sugar tested, 95, okay? I eat a lot of fruit, and I juice a lot. Okay, so anyway, we go on and on. Celery, carrot, cucumber. These are all the foods we want to eat all the time. Stay in the produce section. The produce section is our partner in life. Okay, glow, achieve wellness. Mind is your friend. Heart is open. Digestion is on point. You know, have you ever had a conflict with somebody and then you resolved it? How do you feel when you resolve a very complex conflict? Don't we feel better? Guess what? We feel more free, don't we? We feel like now, my God, I feel great energy. Now I can move on in my life. This is really important. Those things make us ill. Those experiences make us ill. I know because I suffered from it. When I was, I think 11 years old, I was molested. And I suffered horrible bouts of bulimia and anorexia. I wanted to disappear from life. I didn't want to have anything to do with anybody. And that lasted a long time, probably about 10 years. I lost all my teeth. It was a horrible experience for me, but I was in a state of addiction. And I didn't realize at the time that I was using starving myself and bulimia as a way to cope with the anxiety and trauma. And that was very hard to deal with after 10 years. But then I met Jay Kordich. A life reborn, meeting Jay Kordich, I learned through Jay to help others, to be involved in Mother Nature, to understanding what gratitude is, self-confidence, and our old self dies. So how does that happen? It doesn't happen overnight. I was still bulimic when I met him. It took about a year. You know why? Because I was loved. It's one of those things you just can't talk about. It's just so beautiful. And with love, I was able to forgive. And guess what happened? I got better. I got better and better and better. And that all was because of a man with a loving nature. And I say that about my other husband, my new husband, Carl. 8 years. Okay, he's kind of my new husband. I was married to Jay almost 40 years, so 8 years sounds like yesterday, But he changed my life because he gave me space to be myself. He gave me love. He gave me acceptance. Yes, he was tremendously older than I was. I was 25. He was 58. But he had been a bachelor his whole life. It was a wonderful marriage, and we had a great partnership. But he loved me. And then I learned through experience that I am not my addictions. I can get over this. But I couldn't use really my mind to do it. I needed prayer. I needed to help get out of my head. How do you get out of your head? You help others. You give money, time, effort, listening, right? Yeah, thank you. Yes. This is so profound. And that's what I was a real estate agent when I met Jay. When first seminar he ever took me to, he goes, okay, Lynn, I'm going to be making juices and you're going to be handing out the juices. And I'm like, I want to go shopping. No, you do that. He goes, no, you're going to, after about a year of that, I started to connect on a deep heart chakra level with people that were hurting and suffering. And I got out of myself. It was amazing. So, and I'm sure a lot of you have had these experiences of not being in love and not feeling love, but I'm telling you right now, it's the most powerful thing. And if you don't have anyone that loves you, find someone that can love you. Find someone that you can help. It will change the whole chemistry of your brain. Gratitude is everything. Love is everything. So that's the man that changed my life. Okay, so that's my lecture. And it was a short one today. Oh, and also today at I'm over here, not this tent, but this demo booth over here, I'm giving away this beautiful book on juicing. It's 76 remedies from the late, great juicing masters of all time, Dr. Norman Walker, Dr. Christopher J. Kordich, and Dr. Max Gerson. These are all really, really rare juice therapy remedies from A to Z. I'm giving them all away to anybody that comes. I have 200 of them, okay? But anyway, thank you so much for coming. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Linda
Thank you.
Kordich, for being with us today and for sharing your wisdom, the true power of juicing.
Okay.
Thank you all for attending. Veggie Fest would like to thank our host sponsor, Science and Spirituality, and the Institute for Meditation and Inner Harmony. Also, a big shout out to all our community, corporate and nonprofit sponsors for their support in making the 15th annual Veggie Fest. That's right, 15th annual, the best fest ever. Thanks again, Linda, and thanks again for dropping in. Have a great time. Stay hydrated, you guys. Please drink plenty of liquids, especially juices. Thanks again, you guys.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Love you all.